Hello and welcome back to the Chargers Check-In. My name is Cecilia and day 3 of the draft is over. We can finally look at the draft overall, and the way that it fell was so interesting to me. It was very surprising in almost every round. I cannot believe the tight end draft order. I feel like I'm crazy. I cannot believe who were the first tight ends off of the board and who fell to later. But that's how these things go. I think the Chargers managed to get a couple steals in this draft, and that's very exciting. And they have signed some notable undrafted free agents already. As you guys know, there's an absolute scramble after the draft to sign those guys. So we end up with the picks. Akheem Mesidor in the first round, that's edge. Jake Slaughter, a center who will be converted to guard. Brendan Thompson, a wide receiver. Travis Burke, a tackle. Genesis Smith, the safety. Nick Barrett, defensive tackle. Logan Taylor, a tackle who presumably will be converted to guard. And Alex Harkey, also a tackle, presumably converted to guard. So the takeaways from this are the Chargers seriously drafted offensive linemen. I didn't love the Jake Slaughter pick, and we have talked a bit about that. It's just, to me, it ends up being a really high ceiling pick and a really low floor pick. It could end up working out in a great way, or it could end up being, a serious overdraft, and that will come with time, knowing that answer. But they ended up with 8 total picks, only 2 top 100 players in terms of the draft order, but a lot of dart throws later that they traded down for. So they end up with 8 total picks, which is great considering they started with 5, and we never really believed that they were only going to pick 5, not when they've been so successful in later rounds. They drafted only 2 skill position players on either side of the ball, which is really interesting. So many trenches picks, which I think was absolutely the right move. The Chargers now have significant depth on the offensive line, significant competition. I'm going to do a deep dive profile on all of these new rookies, and I have a profile on most of them already made, but not all of them. You need to know that they have on their roster now a backup center, several guards who can compete, some of whom have tackle versatility, which is obviously huge. The Chargers have Trey Pipkins, but you have to think about the future of the swing tackle position. And maybe, we wanted them to get a corner, and it would be nice to get a tight end. This is kind of them paying the price for not drafting offensive linemen well in previous years. Now they have what they need to focus on other aspects of the team. If they're going to make a trade, how they're going to use the cap space, whatever it is, they get to focus on other aspects of the team because they did what they should have done a while ago, and they drafted a lot of offensive linemen. So I'm very happy that they did that. I think it was the right choice. And while I would have preferred drafting a guard in the second round, I understand that Mike McDaniel is going to have a particular evaluation of Jake Slaughter, and we knew that Jake Slaughter would do amazing in interviews, and he's a high character guy. And in terms of character, the Chargers have done remarkably well when it comes to who they have on their team already and who they're adding. And it's one of those things that it allows them later to take maybe a few questionable character guys because they know that the overall character of the team can survive it. Plenty of teams cannot say that. So I'm glad that that's the case. And like I said, the other day, if you're going to reach for a player, they better be a great character guy. And Jake Slaughter absolutely is. So I think somebody said that the Slaughter jersey is going to look pretty awesome. And yeah, you have to agree with that. There is now real competition at the guard spot. There is a pipeline in place of young players. There's also, there's veteran backups, and the room is so improved, and with an improved offensive line coach as well, there is significant reason to believe that there will be a solid offensive line room overall by late in the season. With all these young players, I don't think we can expect things to be ironed out in September, but the important thing is, what does your offensive line look like in December, in January, as we know too well. So the edge room also got significantly better with Akheem Mesidor. I love that pick, and listening to him talk, listening to his press conferences, I encourage you guys to watch it because he is so articulate and calm and single-minded on. He's focused on winning games, and that is a pick that I'm very happy about. But admittedly, the pick that I'm most excited about is Brendan Thompson, who they picked at 105. I have been mocking him to the Chargers for months. He's a perfect fit in this offense. I have often been mocking him in the 3rd round just because it looked like he was going to go in the 90s, if not, and he is such a perfect fit. I had a 3rd round grade on him. All you need to know about this guy right now is he had the 5th fastest 40 time in NFL Combine history. So, in the last 20 something years, he was the 5th fastest. So that is the athletic profile of who you're getting. They either needed a contested catch, red zone specialist kind of guy, or a burner who can open up the defense for Herbert, because Herbert can throw bombs like on a frozen rope. It's remarkable how accurate he is down the field, and we just haven't been able to see him use that. And when the defense knows that he doesn't get to throw deep in the field because of the personnel in the wide receiver room, they can play a little closer to the line. They can, play a little bit closer to QJ, closer to Trey Harris, closer to Ladd, all three of whom like to run shorter routes. Ladd can run deep too, but it would really open things up if they got somebody who can take the top off, and Brennan Thompson is absolutely that guy, and it shows on the tape. Corners cannot keep up with him. Even the really fast athletic corners, he's able to get separation from, and he's really good at tracking the ball. And he had to chase down some rough throws from his quarterback. Unfortunately, he didn't have the best quarterback situation. Like I said, I thought he would go in the 3rd. I have a 3rd round grade on him. So for me, at 105, that is a steal of the draft. I'm very happy for it. It fulfills a need as well. He isn't just fast. He's also a productive receiver. He got over 1,000 yards. He can run real routes. And his quarterback play was not good. The offense wasn't great. He still was productive, and he is such an explosive threat after the catch. And that is kind of a theme with all of these receivers. Ladd is a threat after the catch because he's really shifty. QJ can break tackles and just kind of force people to tackle him over the course of a few yards rather than right away. And, Trey Harris has shown that he can be a yak threat. He hasn't gotten the ball a lot, but every time he gets more yards than it looks like he should on tape. So I'm thrilled with this pick, and I cannot wait to spend this offseason speculating on what Mike McDaniel will do with Brennan Thompson in this offense. On the defensive side, the other skill position player taken was Genesis Smith, who is a safety. He is someone that in most aspects of his game, he played like someone who should go early in the 2nd round. He has flaws, and we'll get to that. But this is someone who, at his best, is a 2nd round kind of player. He's great in coverage. He's really smart. He's in the right place at the right time. There are no obvious flaws in his mental approach to the game, except the missed tackle rate is at nearly 20%. And he's clearly coming off some kind of foot injury that might have contributed to his visible hesitation to run downhill and hit guys hard. There's been some talk that coaches tried to get him to go harder at tackling. It's hard to tell if that's injury related, if there is some sort of hesitation to take a hit. I don't think that the Chargers would have drafted someone who is unwilling to tackle if they didn't see a path toward getting him to tackle. Obviously, they will have had opportunities to interview him, to get to know his mentality and also what is going on. And so this is potentially another steal of the draft, because if they can figure this out in the next year, that safety room looks really solid, and you kind of have a plan in place for when some of these players leave. I think about Tony Jefferson, he's on a 1-year deal. Elijah Molden is hurt frequently, and that's something you got to think about, and I think he could step into that free safety role pretty well. And anything you can do, like Harbaugh said in the presser, anything you can do to keep Derwin away from being the farthest from the line of scrimmage of any of the players is something you got to do. You got to get him, in that nickel position where he is able to make plays on the ball quickly. And so to me, this means Chris O'Leary and Ortiz believe that they can change his ability to hit guys hard over time. And maybe when he isn't playing injured, when they get him more comfortable with tackling from a technical standpoint as well. I think it's a great scheme fit. The secondary already has so many guys who can hit really hard downhill. I wouldn't have taken him in the 2nd round. I'm not saying I have a 2nd round grade on him. I did have a early 4th, late 3rd round grade on him, but this could end up being a serious steal. It's a very high ceiling kind of pick, especially given the Chargers' track record with these late round defensive backs. I also have been mocking Alex Harkey to the Chargers several times. I think the only board that had him, going in, I want to say the top 200 was ESPN. I think they had him at around 150. I had him around like the 170 range. I've been higher on him than consensus for a long time, but I like that pick a lot. Much more interesting to me than all the individual guards and tackle converts to guard that they took is actually the UDFAs. And we'll definitely talk about every prospect individually. Like I said, don't think I'm not going to talk about everyone that they took. But in terms of the UDFAs, Lander Barton is really interesting to me. They signed him. He's a linebacker from Utah. I had him as linebacker 15 on my board. And to me, linebacker 15 should be drafted, especially in this unprecedentedly good linebacker class. So it is fantastic value for them to not have to use a draft pick on him. He is an immediate special teams contributor. He has great ball skills. They used him as a tight end from time to time at Utah, not frequently, but he got a touchdown. He's fast. He can match routes well. He does a really good job stacking and shedding blocks. He's just not the best tackler, and I think that is really what has held him back from being drafted. But to me, this is a great pickup. The Chargers need special teams juice right now, and he provides it. It gives you more depth in a room that you're not really sure about the role of Junior Colson. You're not sure how much longer Denzel Perryman's going to play, so you need more bodies in the room. And it's a pipeline, right? That's what the draft is about. He could absolutely turn into a solid starter in a few years. He needs to get bigger. He needs to get stronger in his lower half. And that will improve his effectiveness against the run. I'm very happy with that UDFA pickup. Next, we have Nadeem Tucker. It's not clear to me if it is pronounced Nadeem or Nadami. I have heard both. I've actually heard both on a broadcast, and broadcasts usually have the official pronunciation guide from the schools. So we will figure that out. I apologize if that's already public information. I am recording this as quickly as I can. What you need to know about him is he's the edge from Western Michigan, who a lot of people mocked to the Chargers in the 5th to 6th round. Chris O'Leary coached at Western Michigan, so there's that connection. He called Tucker the Khalil Mack of their defense. I'm honestly surprised he wasn't drafted. I had a 6th-round grade on him. I thought several of the edge rushers drafted were not better than him, in my opinion. I'm glad that they're still adding to the edge room. I had speculated that they might double dip. That's not how the board fell, but the way that they were able to get this guy anyway is, it's just ideal. The way I see it, it is as if they had an extra 6th-round pick and were able to do that. So they need to prepare to replace Khalil Mack. They need to upgrade from Bud Dupree. Obviously, Bud Dupree plays a different role. But Tucker has great speed to power, great bend, great hand technique. He's not going to be trusted against the run. He's very much a, DPR kind of player. He needs to add weight. He needs to learn to stack and shed blocks. But I love the pickup. It is totally fine to get a pure pass rusher as a UDFA who will be, in my opinion, a rotational contributor as long as everything goes well in camp. I don't think that we have to worry about him not making the roster. Obviously, that's the biggest hurdle to cross as a UDFA, but he has the talent. He has a familiarity with the coach. The coach knows him really well, and so it's in his hands, and that's a really good position to be in. To me, it is as if the Chargers got 9 or 10 draft picks with these UDFAs. So I love that pickup. I thought that was great. The last UDFA I wanted to talk about was Isaiah World. They signed him. He was the tackle out of Oregon. So the Chargers get both of the Oregon starting tackles, and Oregon had one of the best offensive lines in college football for a majority of the year. This is someone I actually had a late 4th-round grade on, and then he tore his ACL in the playoffs. So talent-wise, I had a 4th-round grade on him. I didn't end up going back and adjusting that, but that is presumably the reason that he didn't get drafted. I think the winning window for teams is just getting shorter and shorter, and teams are more and more hesitant to take a player with medical concerns because of that longer timeline, as evidenced by Jermod McCoy going after pick 100. He didn't go in the top 100. Granted, more medical stuff came out about him, and it seems like it's possible that he is forced to medically retire. I would never wish that on anyone. I hope he is able to get away from the unfortunate team that picked him. But anyways, the Chargers clearly met with Isaiah World, had an opportunity to get a sense for where he is in the recovery process. Again, it's about pipeline. I really like this pickup. This, to me, is ideally your swing tackle once you are out of the Trey Pipkins contract, and that happens relatively soon. As a player, he's a great pass protector and a below-average run blocker. And so when you think about a swing tackle, you can work around someone not being a great run blocker, but at the tackle position, I think we learned last year, it's really hard to work around someone who can't pass protect. If you're going to have one of those qualities, in a backup specifically, yeah, I'm going to take pass protection. So that is a really good fit. And, he did play at a higher weight than the Chargers would probably like. They have plenty of time to work with that. So they signed 18 total UDFAs, and those were the most notable ones. I'm going to do research on some of the other ones because I don't have a complete scouting profile on all of them. On a few more than these, I do. But those are the ones that I wanted to immediately talk about. Overall, the Chargers improved their interior of the offensive line. They improved their offensive line depth. They got the missing piece that they needed in the wide receiver room. They deepened their interior of the defensive line, particularly against the run, which I love. They added to their secondary, and they got their edge 3 and Khalil Mack successor, which is so huge. The Chargers are a significantly better team than they were before the draft, and that is the most important takeaway. I'm really excited to dive into these prospects and share what I have been scouting on them all year. And the best value picks, let me know what you guys think the best value picks that they got were, other than Lander Barton as a UDFA, which to me probably is the best value in terms of what the Chargers specifically need. I think Brennan Thompson at 105 and Genesis Smith at 131 are probably the best value picks, in my opinion. But let me know what you guys think about all these picks. Like I said, Jake Slaughter will be the most interesting. And we heard Harbaugh and Ortiz talk a bit about them. I can't wait to hear what Mike McDaniel has to say about Jake Slaughter's game and then rewatch his film in that context. That'll be really interesting. And I'm really excited to see what Mike McDaniel has planned for Brennan Thompson. It's a great draft for Justin Herbert. It is a great draft for the offensive line. And I'm very excited about what the Chargers have here. So please like and subscribe if you've liked what you have seen. And I will see you guys next time.